Hello again. That last video ended a little bit abruptly because I had an unexpected intrusion. So I've edited the video and I am back here. During that interruption, I also decided that there were too many images. So I am going to let you just use 4 images. So I've decided these five with the talk more as well, only 5 images in your homework assignment, and that will be put in your homework assignment. It'll be described in there. So you can pick 5 images out of the 6. You can do all 6 if you want, but it seemed like it was a little too dense and a little too crowded. So I am going to delete this one and use these 5 images here, okay? So where we left off was I was setting this type here and showing you how the leading, the space between the lines, can make text feel more open and brighter. So I'm going to leave this text here for now. Right now we're going to go and move things around, looking at the grid lines that we have here and trying to set up a really nice layout that's dynamic but holds together. So one of the things I want to show you is if you have your images hugging the outside too much and you have this negative space, I'm going to hit the W key. If you end up with the layout where you have these big open spaces in the middle, your eye gets stuck there. So think about where your eye is moving. So when I open this, I see what is graphic design, and then my eye seems to travel down to the infographic of the street, and then it sort of gets locked in this white space here and this white space here, and it's stuck there. So you want the eye to really keep moving around the page, that it's interesting and your eye just keeps moving to absorb what's on the page and not get stuck. So you want your images to balance each other out and hold together in a nice way. So one of the things that I see that's happening here, this does sort of have a nice shape here. I like a little bit of space there, but this space is too wide and big here. So maybe what I do is think about moving this here and making my text maybe a little smaller there so all these images hold together. Now when I do that, these 2 white spaces here feel a little bit too dead to me. So I'm going to keep trying just moving things around, and I'm going to keep the grid lines off for a moment because the grid lines sometimes throw me off because I start trying to align things and it gets me hung up a bit. So maybe I'll just play with moving some things around here. This talk more, it needs to be integrated in here somehow because it competes with the title here. Maybe it would be nice fitting under here, but it does seem to need more space. So maybe if this moves over a little bit and I can fit the talk more in there. Maybe what I do is move this up, move this down, maybe get the talk more in there. This is so much bigger than the other objects that it's a little challenging. Maybe what I want to do is pull this over to the side so it's weighted there and gives a little more air on the rest of it. This seems to be working a bit more for me right away. So these are holding together with this boxiness, but there's a little bit of movement in here. Maybe I move this in here and this down. Maybe this comes up a bit and this comes down. Yeah, that's starting to work for me. So now I've got this white space on the outside here and a little extra in here. So when I have it sort of hugging around the sides, it helps to give some lightness to the page, but having the movement travel from here into here, my eyes coming down here and back here, and leading me back up to the title. So my eye is moving a bit more. So one thing is the space here feels a little bit too open. Maybe I want all of these to be a little bit closer. And I can look at that. Yeah, that feels a little bit better to me. So if I open up my, I think, I'm also thinking this might be a bit big. So I have it at 48. I think I'm going to make it smaller. And I wonder too, maybe on all the pages I start the title here with the text aligning next to it. Although it feels a little bit too far over. Maybe that will work. That looks a little better to me, but it feels a little arbitrary. I do like to anchor things so not everything feels like it's just flowing out there. So I'm going to hit the W key and start aligning things now. So I've got this aligned with this here. I'm going to align this title here. This is going to pull in and align there. Interestingly enough, this is where I had that line to have everything start, and when I had it with the W, I was feeling that this text needed to move up. You know how I just had it too low and I moved it up, so my instinct earlier was right. So I'm going to move this text box out to fit that and put this in here. So now this I will move over here, and I've got this piece here that is it's not fitting into the grid in this height-wise, and it's not fitting in width-wise, but sometimes there's an outlier. As long as I make this space here, even in some area, in some place, then that helps hold it together. What I might do is actually bring this down and have it align with the web page on the left. Now notice where I have it right now. You see that green line that's showing up at the bottom? As you move things around sometimes, these guidelines, so I'll show you how this, now there's a pale green line that's showing up even with the top of the street image when I'm moving this around. So again, as you move things around, now that pink line, that's showing me the center line. Okay, so it's showing me that it's aligning with the center of this box here. So those little guides can help you as well. So let's talk more here. That might hit the W key and sort of get a sense of where that should line up. Maybe it feels like it needs to be a little over there, because over here everything feels a little bit too aligned, and somehow it's making that feel more dead to me. When I have it over here, this feels a little bit more of a movement in there. So this white space still is sort of dead in the middle there, but it's not as big, and it lets the river flow out this way. Okay, now I could align this that way, but then everything else has a little bit more movement. So having this seems like it's not appropriate. It needs to be a little bit, a little more bump in here because everything is so many different sizes. So another thing that I want you to pay attention to when you're working with your text is that you don't have these bad line breaks. So here I'm going to hit return. Sometimes what you get is the words pop up somewhere else. So I'm going to end up trying to keep adding in some returns. Now, oops, sorry. I've got, this is called flush left, and this is ragged right. Now I've got not a lovely space here. One of the things I can do is start to send down some more words. Usually it works out better than this is working right now. Magazines might end up making this worse. Let's try it. I know this seems like a lot of work, but it really makes a difference. And this one is exceptionally hard. All right, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to Command Z, Command Z, Command Z. Command Z is how you undo something. Now there's another little trick. I will mention this in our in the preview that you're going to get when we have our live class, and that's talking about the tracking, and the tracking is the space between words. So I usually try to keep it at the 0 tracking. So this is my tracking right here. That is, sorry, this is my tracking here, sorry. This is my tracking, which shows how much extra space I'm adding between lines. So if let me go select all of this for a moment, and I'm going to change the tracking to 25. So you see how the space between these words is a little more open. So I'm going to do Command, look at that now, and Command Z. So you see how they're tighter together. So I usually keep it at 0, but I know that if I track something to about -5, that I can sometimes get a word to bump up and fit in an area. Sometimes I can't, but I know that -5 helps me to get better line breaks. So I still have those same line breaks here. So what I could do is go as much as -10. If I go more than -10, it tends to crowd it a little bit, but visually that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to start again. I'm going to move this down. That is jumped up there, so I'm going to move that down. I'm going to move that there. So now advertising had bounced to the next line before, and now it isn't. So now I'm going to move the word which down here, and I'm going to move its, and the word the should fit in there. So now this wrap is a lot better. Sorry for that interruption. Background noise here. So this is a nice smooth wrap. So honestly, what I just did usually does not take that long. It usually is much simpler. But it's important. You don't want to have hyphens. And if you start looking around at text, you should see very few hyphens in things. So here is a basic layout. It's not amazing, but it's holding together pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. So the other thing that we need to add are these labels here, okay? So I put here that the labels could be small. That's a directive that I can take out. So I have these at 11. So I'm going to cut each one, and make a new text box and put that, paste that in there. Magazine spread, I'm going to cut that, make a new text box and paste that. Advertisement, that was for the tennis, so we can get rid of that one. We're not using that one. We have got a web page in here, so I'm going to cut that, make a new text box and paste that. We've got our infographic. I'm going to put a text box. And then the book cover is the last, so I'm going to delete all of those spaces. Okay, so now we have to tuck these words in here in a nice, neat little way. So this web page maybe fits under here. The magazine spread can fit here. The logo can go here, and the infographic can go down here. Now, one of the things you want to do is make sure you haven't put it somewhere where somebody might get confused which it is. So if I were to put this magazine spread over here and align it, you might wonder, all right, does it go to this or does it go to this? So your choice of where you put things. I could put this book cover over here, but it really is hanging out there. It's breaking up that space. It's such a little dinky thing that it's better to tuck it underneath. Now I had started, most of my things are tucked flush left. I could leave that flush left, looking at that, does that look okay? Or maybe I want to